So now here's what we don't know, ladies and gentlemen, dismantling the barriers that makes AI adoption slow. Now this is what I am, I'm not even contemplating. I know me. I'm really gonna tag President Trump and I'm telling him, you're not gonna get your AI America. You're not gonna get it. And when we go through these slides, you're gonna know you're gonna have 4 barriers, 4 solutions, and 1 mandate. Now, guess what, y'all? What I am saying today, this is from my experience. I have been in workforce systems receiving public funds. I've received over $5 million in public funding since 2009. Okay, I've been doing government contracting since 2009. In 3 years, that will be almost 20 years. Okay, so I've been in the workforce systems. I've been on both sides, and I know, and what I know from standing on both sides is that the system has a problem. It has never been willing to name out loud, right? And at least not at this level, and not in a room like this one. So I am uniquely, because I don't work for a government and I don't have any existing contract. So I am not ashamed or I'm not afraid of getting my contract taken, because you can't take them because I don't have them. I intentionally came out of government contracting so that I can show more operators on how to access contracts and do the programming that we used to do in various states across the country. And so I what I say is what I know based on my experience. Now, is what I'm about to share with you this case for every single workforce board or institution here in America? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But it is from my personal experience, and I'm pretty sure if it exists like that on this side of the fence, because I didn't even operate, I operated in urban communities where it's resource rich. We haven't even gotten to resource deficient communities. This is in resource rich communities. And so, yeah, so we're going to name it 4 barriers that are slowing AI adoption in the communities of this federal program, that the federal program that the NSF was actually designed to reach. Now, I think it's important, particularly if you are here from a university, you have a EDU on the back of your email, and you are applying for the hub. We must go beyond a plan, right? You can't say, oh, now this is what is going to happen. So I'm going to just give an example. This is not real. Virginia State University applies as the hub, and I'm only using Virginia because I live in Virginia. Applies as the hub, and they say we're going to work with Virginia Career Works or the state of Virginia's workforce agencies and all of its 75, however many counties, I think rural counties, and they're going to name all the infrastructure. They're going to name it because it's already there, right? That is a given. However, you can't just name that and just think that that's going to happen, because it ain't happened yet. Why hasn't it happened yet? Because there's barriers. Somebody say barriers. Put barriers in the chat. Why don't you know about, American Job Centers and training? We don't see American Job Centers running ads on YouTube. They probably need to, but they're not, because they already have money. They're not trying to, make money. They have it and they're giving it away. And I'm not saying they're giving it away. They're granting it, contracting it, but they are providing, paying for service. However, if we don't fix the barriers that exist now, don't expect because AI comes that the AI is going to just remove the barriers. It's not. What I will also say is this is not a grievance. I'm not grieving. This is not a grievance session, but it is a real live, because I've been there, done that, and these are some of the pain points as a provider providing programs that we felt on this end. And it wasn't just me talking, providers talk to providers, programs talk to programs, staff, y'all talk to staff, y'all already know. It's crazy behind the scenes. Sometimes it's hella messy. You know what I'm saying? But we do it because we got into this work to make a difference, to make an impact, and that's why we're here. And that's why we'll continue to deal with these nuances. But until these nuances are fixed, it's like major roadblocks. So let's talk about it. So we got the NSF, we got this. I don't even think I'm going to do this. AI is for every American. The path to AI cannot be paved in concrete. Okay. So the NSF Tech Access AI Ready America program was built to remove barriers, not just fund programs. In fact, if anybody wants to go and get geeked out on the NSF priorities, like their mission, they are for every man. It don't matter what you are, they are for every man. And so $224 million is not going into a curriculum. It's going into build this infrastructure. Infrastructure that is supposed to reach every American, including the ones who have been hardest to reach. So the AI action plan is explicit. Slow AI adoption is a national problem. They have addressed that AI has been slow to be adopted within our infrastructure. And what slows it most is not the technology. It's not that we don't have the technology, and it is not the lack of AI tools that is making it slow. It is not a lack of federal dollars that is making it slow. So if the tech is not doing it, the tool is not doing it, the federal dollars, surely they got the money, then what slows it most is the system. Families must survive before they ever reach a single trading seat. And I promise you, this is because super, super smart people make the rules, and they're just too smart. It's too complicated. And I've learned that. 56 coordination hubs are being funded specifically to remove those barriers. I hope that you will remove the barriers, or else AI is not going to be adopted so that every American in every corner of this country can reach it. And so let's talk about it. Barrier number one. So eligibility systems were designed for the people they're supposed to serve. Let's talk about it. In most cases, even in the places in DC, they do have transportation. However, in most cases, just driving down to an American Job Center requires resources. Now, if we already said WIOA dollars were used for low-income people with barriers. So if these low-income people have barriers, why would we not expect, where's my microphone? You know what? Y'all want to see my little my closet in here where my jacket is. Did I take the microphone off? Look, the microphone is always in the closet, y'all. The microphone. Jesus, look at that. Because I'm like, well, where's my microphone? But I guess you could still hear me somewhere somehow. Somebody say distracted. Okay, so barrier one, services is delivered, right? But in most cases, particularly rural, people have to drive 30 to 45 minutes just to be eligible. Now, even in DC, sometimes they would have to get on a bus, come down to the American Job Center, spend money. Now, DC was good because DC would give them a bus pass. But that is not the case everywhere. You're not getting no bus pass. DC wanted to make sure, they did go over and beyond. And I'm sure big cities like New York may do the same. But people in North Carolina, maybe Maryland might do something like that. I don't know. I have found that largely, maybe in high concentrations of minority, you may see the extra go beyond. But as you get further out there in jurisdictions, no, you got to get here. So when did driving 30 to 45 minutes to become eligible for something? That was like a huge, huge problem. And so the process by which, and I read the AI action plan, I read the NSF funding opportunity, I've read the Department of the Department of Labor's guidance letter. It said, listen, remove barriers. Remove the barriers that make AI adoption slow. So what did we do during COVID? You will hear me talk about this. During COVID, every virtual, what they have, virtual one-stop is called. Workforce Development has a robust platform that they can do a plethora of things. And for some reason, we could never really utilize our virtual one-stop. Now, during COVID, it was mandatory. But I did walk into my Virginia office out here in rural Virginia, and I asked them specifically if somebody was eligible for services and they needed to come and prove their eligibility, like come and hand in documents such as the Social Security card, driver's license or ID, maybe a letter, a lease, or income, or TANF, SNAP, showing that you're receiving these system, benefits, showing that you have a barrier, right? I said, if they don't have access to transportation, how will they get in? And it was crickets, crickets. So the nearest place was 30 minutes, and it was a community college. So the community college was absolutely the starting point for a low income person to come. That was absolutely no, 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 no. Poor people we already talked about it in the beginning, the barriers that they have. So if you want AI adoption, Mr. Trump, because I'm gonna tag you, I'm just gonna tag Donald Trump. You're not gonna get your AI economy. Here's why. Like at a minimum, put it in the school systems. You know what I'm saying? At a minimum. Now, I think she said there was like a career work person that will go out to different schools. One person driving to all the schools in the rural community. Like, come on, come on. Like we could do better. This is a multi-billion-dollar infrastructure in America. We can do better. The White House AI action plan is explicit. Slow AI adoption is a national problem. Okay, and so if we know that transportation is a barrier, in fact, that is one of the barriers to employment. They don't have access to transportation. They can't get to and from work. They don't have necessarily the money. Some people don't even have the money to start the car. I need uniform. I need to have this credential. Think about when you are being employed somewhere. Sometimes you had to invest yourself to make sure you could stand up for that opportunity. Low income people don't have access to the resources to help them stand up for better opportunities, which is why workforce development is there to help that happen, right? So 30 to 45 minutes is you already disqualified. What if the mom is at work? Mom works 9 to 5, right? And here you are 9 to 5. Okay. The workforce systems are regular business hours. And then the parents are working regular business hours. So then the out of school youth who went to high school, got a GED, but didn't go to college, they need skills. How are they going to get to you? How is that happening? And I need our our American Job Center workers. We have to fix this gap. So if you are from the university, work on fixing the gap. I don't know how y'all gonna fix it. I was gonna say nobody paying me to fix that problem. However, you very well could. However, what I will say is the distance, particularly, and it only exacerbates. I don't even think that was the right word. Exacerbates. What's that word? How you say it, Monet? It only gets worse the further out you get in the rural communities. And I had an issue when it came to the people in DC that had to pay money to get on the bus, and sometimes get in these unsafe communities and all of that. But DC, it is what it is, because you could get on a bus. They was giving you a bus ticket. You didn't have to come out your pocket. So DC passed the test from there. But these rural communities, no, they are not passing. It is hard. People will not get there. That's number one. We didn't even mention how do you even know the programs exist? How do you even know what programs? What programs? And I had somebody from the local office recently tell me, oh, well, we have all of these resources online. Who knows about that? Just because you put it online don't mean nobody know. And just because you put a flyer don't mean nobody know. And just because you said a program was available doesn't mean it's accessible. And so I need all my workforce people to really start looking at your processes, because your process might look available to you, but I can promise you on this side of the fence, it's not accessible. Information does not mean access. Okay. And so one solution could be your virtual one-stop. Now, when I asked the director of the workforce board, well, what did you do in COVID? She said, well, we paid for the module in the virtual one-stop. I said, you paid for the module. I said, so why you don't pay for it now? Well, it's not in the budget. It's not in the budget. No, ma'am. No, sir. Get it in the budget. States, if you are looking to make sure this is real, make sure the American one-stop, virtual one-stop, I don't know how much they got paid for the module, let them pay. Every rural community must have a virtual one-stop module that allows that person to sign up online, put documents online, upload driver's license, social security numbers in a secure location. This is the American government. This is the United States of America. This is the land of the free, the home, the brave, all of those things that y'all say that we are. That you want to run a tech company? You want to be driven in an AI economy? Let the people upload. Pay for the modules and keep it going. Please, I am an advocate for the virtual one stop. If you don't hear me saying nothing else, make this thing simple. Pay for the modules and cut it out. And then I'm going to stop. Because I feel myself getting riled up. Oh God, barrier number 2, ladies and gentlemen. Now for my AI consultants, y'all don't know nothing about this. But federal law, federal policy, complicated. I really think that the federal policy exists to tax the hell out of poor people. I'm sorry, I said it. I did. The CASAS exam, test reading and writing proficiency. It is a serious assessment. I took it. So in my programs, we don't do nothing. We don't give those kids nothing that we don't know. I had to sit for the exam. I probably failed the CASAS. Okay. And maybe I failed because I wanted to bang my head on the desk. Because it was tape test, like one of those proficiency tests all over again, and you got to take it every 6 months. So it's a serious assessment and it serves a real purpose. It does. But here is what the field has actually seen. And I am speaking from the field from my experience, okay? Running multiple programs. In some cases, students are required to take this test every time they enroll in a new program. So it's not like, let me take the classes in January and then I can enroll in maybe 2-3 programs for the year. Maybe I'll take it again next year. No. In most cases, you can't even enroll in another program until maybe 6 months, and you have to take it every 6 months. So federal policy does allow prior test results to carry forward, but only within a 6-month window. So when a student cycles through multiple programs over time, that clock resets. They are retested again and again and again, even when nothing has changed between the time that they tested the first time and the time that they tested the second time. Now, here's the caveat, and I need y'all to understand this. And these are the nuances, the backwards, like what the WTF is happening. Because if I fail the test, right, then you should be teaching me how to not fail it again. Because then why? What was the purpose of you testing me? I failed. I had to show that there was a barrier because English access, limited English proficiency, reading, writing deficiencies is a barrier. So if it's a barrier, why would we not fix it and ensure that it's fixed? I'll tell you why. A student who reads at a 10th grade level last year with no additional coursework in between will read at the 10th grade level again. And we should expect nothing different. What we should not do is run that family through a grueling assessment just to confirm what we already know, that they're reading on a 10th grade level. Now, some programs say we need you to be at a 12th grade. So I do get that you want to make sure that they can test and leave it optional. Whereas if they tested on the 10th grade level last year, but this program requires a 12th grade reading, to let them test again. However, what the field has seen is students who were told that they needed to show a barrier. So I have had students, multiple students, pass the test and they didn't have enough barriers and was told to come back, retake it, put any answer down, just to prove that they had a barrier. And so they started to put down any answer just to fail on purpose, not because they lacked the literacy, but because the system required a barrier to open the door. If that is happening in even a handful of cases, the data that we are making policy decisions from is not real. It's not real data. These people really are not illiterate. They have to be literate. They have to fail the test in order to get through the door. Who has $5,000, $7,000, $9,000 to pay for a training? Not them. But they won't get it paid if they don't have a barrier. If they're low income, they probably need an additional barrier. English proficiency and like whatever that CASAS test is a barrier. And if they don't have it, they could not be approved. That is absolutely nuts. And I'm going to tell President Trump. I'm going to tell Trump, you're not going to have an AI economy if that is not fixed. Do not have people faking literacy just to prove a barrier. If you're low income, god dang on, you're low income. If you're living in rural America, if you want everybody to have access to AI, then just give it to them. Let this not be a barrier. So these are some of the nuances that exist in workforce systems that I am fortunate to say. Because I'm not afraid of anybody taking my contract. Because I don't work for you. I work for the Lord. And this is the problem. This is a problem. You are taxing poor people before they even get in the door. Now, I have told you just 2 barriers. I'm exhausted, and there's only 2 barriers. We got 2 more. And that is not an all exhaustive list. The list continues, but we already had about 15, 30 minutes for this presentation. So if this is going to be real, we need to, make this real for families. The people in our systems may not be as low literate as the numbers say. They were required to appear that way in order to be served. That is not, again, that's my expertise, that's my experience. That is not the case everywhere. That is a data integrity problem, though. That is a policy design problem, though. And it means that we may be building AI ready workforce systems on a foundation of numbers that we cannot fully trust. And the fix is not complicated. Assessment should follow intentional capacity building. Train, build a capacity, then assess the growth. Because I don't see why you would continue to test them if we were never required to help competencies on concepts, so why test? All I'm saying is if you want AI in every corner of America, in every man, woman, and child, these are some of the barriers that are going to stop people from coming through. Because now, and this is where my ad consultants come through to understand this, because maybe you'll say it in a different way. But what you won't say is that poor people don't want it. What you won't say is that they just want to be poor on welfare. What you won't say is they just want to take over the system and just take up the system and just lamp on welfare. You can't say that. Because people like me who have been on both sides of the system is here to tell you that's not true. You just make it so hard for people to get through. So if you really want access, let's give access. After all, this is an AI-driven economy. AI can do pretty much everything. So let's not underestimate our intelligence at this point, and let's just get it done. We're America. We're American. And what can't we do? Number 3 barrier. In some workforce programs, providers are required to complete 10 to 15 documents per student per month. My God in heaven. And this is why I'm so excited about my WE team. Because if you are on here and you are from the American Job Centers and you are, or even a program running a WIOA Title I program funded by Workforce Development, I'm gonna be your best friend after today. First of all, my heart goes out to all the workforce providers, workforce at American Job Centers, caseworkers back in the back end office who do nothing but paper, and endless paper. AI is not coming for your job. It is coming for your paperwork. And we have created a solution for that. And I'm so excited. So I want you to look at this slide. The case manager buried in paper, asking herself, when do I actually help the people? These people, poor people, have real barriers. We talked about what poverty is and how the theft was in the margin. It's the belief, it's spiritual, it's mental, it's physical, it's emotional. It's not just financial. This is where we should be spending our time as providers providers administering programs on the front end and workforce development, leaders behind the scenes. Let AI do all the heavy lifting. Let us focus on getting these people what they need, when they need it, so that they can move forward and thrive. Every American thrives. That's what it says. That's what NSF said. Every American thrives. Well, these are the ingredients to making sure every American thrives in this AI-driven economy. Okay, so I wish there was one caseworker, somebody who works in American Job Center. If you even want to name yourself, you probably don't. It's okay. This is not an exaggeration. This is a Tuesday morning workforce development, and it doesn't look this bad because now it's like online. But I used to get so frustrated, which is one of the reasons why I came out. I came out because it just no longer was about the people. It was about managing chaos, managing dysfunction, managing paperwork, managing systems that were just redundant, duplicative. It was just not fun anymore. And so I'm very excited that now I get to come in a whole nother way and help not just operators get in the system, but now I'm giving my operators agent tools. The agentic world is here to help workforce developers and programmers do better programming so we can serve people where they are. They have real needs, ladies and gentlemen, and your program and your paperwork and your assessments and your driving 35, 40 minutes to get there, that is not going to get it. It's not going to get it. So the mission got replaced by compliance somewhere along the way. The student became the paperwork. And the case manager, the program director, chasing spreadsheets, data, instead of sitting with the families that they were hired to walk alongside, now, that work was no fun. But now we flip the script. AI is now chasing the spreadsheets. The case managers walks with the family, is able to actually help move barriers in the family, because the barriers you see here are programmed. They're not even real life barriers that that person is going through. It could be they just got evicted. They can't pay their rent. You know what I'm saying? It could be domestic violence. It could be a plethora of things. Dealing with a mom on drugs, a dad on drugs, or abusive situation. That's real life things that's happening every day that we need to be available for. Not this. So AI is coming after your paperwork. And that is the redesign. The virtual one-stop system can serve as an AI deployment accelerant. Hello, let's get the AI, the virtual one-stop. That is requirement. Okay? And on the program level, just using AI in your everyday, administrative to reduce the administrative weight so that the humans in the system can do the human work. Many of us want to cry and say AI is coming after our jobs. AI can't do human work. They cannot do the work that we were created to do. And maybe that's why AI is here, so we can get back to doing the work that is very vital, very necessary to the soul salvation of humanity. Okay, and that's not a technical argument. That is a mission for workforce development professionals, for anybody that is out here trying to improve the lives of low-income people. And so in our next session, we'll show you exactly what it looks like when the technology actually does it live in real time. I'm so excited about our agents. The eligible training provider list, this is the barrier number 4. And this is the last barrier. Remember I said 4 barriers. So let me see where my, we a little bit, I think we're right on time, but we're right on time. So the eligible trainer provider list, the ETPL, what it's called, is dominated by colleges and universities. So if every participant in the workforce systems were already college bound, then that would make sense. But they're not. We always know this. They say everybody's not meant to go to college. Then stop having them go to register at the college, right? Stop having colleges be the only thing that's in these systems. Smaller, highly competent training providers exist in rural communities and in urban communities across the country. However, providers who know their workforce, speaks the language of local employees, and that can deliver the training that actually fits the lives of people that they serve, that does not necessarily exist on a small level. So in some states, for the ETPL, the application fee is over $5,000. And it's not guaranteed that you're going to be on the list, right? Now, I get it. You don't want any Joe Schmo coming in, lying and saying you're going to get this, you're going to get that, and then they ripping people off. Set up a robust criteria, but make it accessible to individuals like myself and or other training providers in the local areas. $5,000 application fee plus $500 for programs plus all these other fees. That is nuts. That's why you only see. Now, if you want to talk about AI being slow to adoption, how come in most cases, I don't know what ETPL list I saw. I want to say Florida, Okaloosa County, 11 providers. 9 of them were community colleges and universities. How dare you? How dare you take the taxpayers' dollars and say that this training is accessible for everybody, but you got 9 community colleges and universities, technical training schools. And then I know for a fact in DC, one of the criteria was you had to have 6 months of operating revenue in a bank account, non-federal funds sitting there. I don't know in a small business world who just has 6 months of revenue just sitting in the bank unused. Obviously, big universities like school that get financial tuition paid from FAFSA and stuff like that. Obviously, I'm not sure. Big barrier. So if you want to really move AI in these places where the lions get the lion's share, you're gonna have to, and I thank God what Maryland did it. They called it something else. It was like a lower tier of the ETPL. That's a solution. If you are in workforce boards, advocate for a sub-dominant tier to the ETPL. I think they call it, it was like a LTPL. I'm just going to say lower training provider, but it wasn't lower. It was something else. The L meant something else. But create something else. You have the ETPL and then you have the PTL or something. Create another level for just like phase one, you know what I'm saying, for smaller providers to be able to get on. If you're real about, you know, and I'm telling the president, I told you, I'm telling the president, you're not gonna have it. It's not gonna happen. Get the ETPL, get these universities and colleges. They're already there. They can stay there, but open the door for mid-sized, smaller. You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about the mom and pop that just open the door, but make it available, accessible for the everyday person, proficient professional to get on the training providers list because you have AI consultants out here, but they will not have what you need to be on the ETPL list. And if in order to use, we owe Title I monies, if you those monies only going to the ETPL providers, that means my AI consultants are now bound by the ETPL providers themselves. So if they don't want AI, then AI never comes into the conversation, into the fold, onto the ETPL. And we're not needing to change federal policy at this point. What we're needing to say is you guys have discretion. There's discretion in these budgets. Create another tier for eligible training providers, or don't call them eligible, but call them proficient, the PTO, proficient training providers that can access these systems so that we can have AI deployment and every American, every boy, child, women in America could have access to the AI tools. So what I want to say this one more time before we move, because it's the most important that you carry this correctly. It's not a complaint session. I did not just do a complaint session. I really thought about every barrier that we named in the last 25, 30 minutes. And every barrier we named was built into a system by, unfortunately, some people who was trying to solve a different kind of problem. So AI is a different kind of problem. The intake requirements were built to prevent fraud. The assessments were built to measure a need. The documentation was built to prove accountability. And the ETBL was built to ensure quality. I get that. And none of those intentions were wrong. The design just didn't keep up with the reality of the people it was supposed to serve. And that is fixable. So the solution is not to tear the system down, it is to redesign it with the people it was built to serve and with the new technology and AI that now exists to make that work. So virtual one stop as a cost shared hub infrastructure, share cost. If it's too much for one region, let the whole state buy into the whole entire one stop hub. Okay, so that it does not become a burden to the family. Do not put your burdens on the families. Assessments that follow intentional capacity building, not an arbitrary calendar. Let AI handle the documentation, the case manager handle the family. That's how it was supposed to be. That's how I believe it was initially designed. And an ETPL checklist that reflects training providers, rural communities that that can actually be used. So let's redesign with the people in mind. Let's deploy with the technology of AI and the power of AI. And that to me is the purpose of why this summit was so important. It's not important. It's not enough for you to have $224 million and for universities to write these big old elaborate, hard to understand plans. Because you also know that when you make a plan to walk out on the ground is very, very different. We are on the ground. Our AI operators are on the ground. And my job is to make sure that they know what they're walking into before they walk into it. And in order to do that, some of this stuff on the top has got to be fixed. So if you guys are really serious about making sure that this $224 million is going to do what it do, I believe the state that adheres to the things that we just discussed will be the states that actually move. Because at the end of the day, in order to rule and reign and have dominion, you must do exactly that. You cannot just have a credential and then be stuck, don't know how to use it. So the proof is going to be in the receipts. And I'm an advocate for that. Every barrier we named in this session has an AI solution sitting on it on the other side. Virtual intake that removes the 45-minute drive. The automated documentation that gives the case manager back her time. The AI-powered eligibility support that does not require a family to prove their poverty 3 different ways before they can access a single service. And so in the next 30 minutes, we're going to show you exactly what that looks like. Not a concept, not a slide deck, not a promise. It's a deployed system running in real time. AI is not coming for your job. ladies and gentlemen, if you are on the workforce side of the house, it is coming for your paperwork.